Welcome to Families and Faith Online. Last week we started our look at the Shema passage from Deuteronomy and talked about how it starts with us. We must first learn to love God with all our heart, soul, strength, and mind. Well, this week we turn to passing the faith on to our children. We started with our own relationship with Jesus because we cannot hope to give what we do not ourselves possess. In other words, we can't teach our children to love God with all their heart, soul, and mind until we ourselves have embraced that journey. Now we turn to God's plan for when and how to accomplish our purpose as parents. From Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 9, we read again the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. We are to talk about God. That's the foundational piece. And notice what the verse says and what it doesn't say. We are to talk about them where? At home. Nowhere does it mention talking about them at church. This isn't to say that church isn't important, but when it comes to passing the faith on to our children, it starts in the home. And then it follows the rhythm of life. Well, it turns out that God knew exactly what He was doing when He commanded this. There's a lot of research lately being done about the value of the home as a place for spiritual development and for influence. Listen now to some of that research for encouragement and for training and to give you a sense of calling and duty as you look to pass the faith on to your children in your home. Bruce Wilkinson, in his book, The Prayer of Jabez, says, "Your home is the single most powerful arena on earth to change a life for God." Mark Holman, in his book, Building Faith at Home, says, "The best personnel for teaching our children and youth about matters of faith are parents. And the best programs to teach those matters of faith are the ones that take place in the home." Bill Hybels, in the foreword to the book It Starts at Home by Kurt Bruner and Steve Stroop, says, "The home is the primary context of lasting spiritual formation." Bruner and Stroop in their book go on to say, "The home is the primary context of spiritual formation, for better or worse. God wired us for flesh and blood relationships with a mom, a dad, a spouse, a child, and others who profoundly shape our perception and experience of the faith." They go on to say, "God designed the home as the primary place that children receive spiritual instruction and experience the tangible embodiment of spiritual realities." Mark Holman, in his book Impress Faith on Your Kids, says, "The home is intended to be the primary place where faith is lived, expressed, discussed, and nurtured." Bruner and Stroop, again in their book It Starts at Home, say, "No matter how creatively we proclaim God's word to children at church, they are more likely to believe their experience of the faith at home. That's because incarnation trumps proclamation." Brian Haynes, in his book The Legacy Path, says, "No one has been designed as perfectly as you to be the primary faith influencer of the life of your child. It is God's design for parents to influence the faith of their children for a lifetime." These quotes are backed up by research as well. An extensive study of 272,400 teenagers conducted by USA Today Weekend magazine found that 70% of teens identified their parents as the most important influence in their lives. 21% said that about their friends, and only 8% named the media. This study obviously contradicts cultural misconception that peers and media are the primary driving force for teens. Today's research supports what the Bible has said for thousands of years. Parents have the most important place in their child's development. Bob Huntsberger and Bruce Altemeyer, in their book Amazing Conversions, Why Some Turn to Faith and Others Abandon Religion, quote it this way: "All of the different approaches to studying parental influence in the religious socialization process converge on a single conclusion. Parents play an extremely important role in the developing religious attitudes and practices of their offspring. In fact, few researchers would quarrel with the conclusion that parents are the most important influence in this regard. The authors go on to say, "We acquire our religion from our parents almost as certainly as we inherit the color of our eyes. And parents of those who kept the faith emphasized religion twice as much as the parents of those who became apostates." Martin Luther has been quoted as saying, "Most certainly, father and mother are apostles, bishops, and priests to their children, for it is they who make them acquainted with the gospel." Not only is the home an incredibly powerful place to influence our children, it's also part of God's plan as the starting place for faith conversations, spiritual nurturing, and for parents to pass the faith on to their kids. Make your home a place of spiritual development for your children.